What are we talking about tonight? Well, we call this presentation Don't Believe the Hype because there is so much out there about how easy it is to open up a venue, how easy it is to make $10,000 a month and all this type of stuff. But we want to tell you guys that venue ownership is not easy. It is a daily struggle and you have to work extremely hard. So before you hop on this trend of being a venue owner, you need to make sure that you're up for this challenge. So, what is required of a person who is going to enter this industry? First of all, you got to be tenacious and you have to persevere. There's going to be so many obstacles in your way, from finding a space to getting bookings to staying relevant to making sure revenue is consistently coming in, to marketing, to even the city and permitting. Some people, I'm just going to be honest with you, some people don't have the tenacity to stick with things when they get hard. If you be honest with yourself, if you're not that person, if you can't stick with things when they get hard, this is not the business for you. You have to display some real critical thinking skills. You're going to be faced with some challenges and you're going to have to find creative ways to get yourself out of it. So it's not always surface level. You got to evaluate what's really happening day to day in your business and be able to come up with some, detailed or out of the box sometimes ideas to push your way through. You need some problem solving skills. As a professor, we'll see this all the time in class, but it's not just students. I mean, when things get hard, some people just, tap out. But you have to say, okay, this is the problem I'm facing. How can I, what are some creative solutions to get me out of it? Who can I use as a resource to get me through it? You have to be able to problem solve. And one of the major ones is you need to be a leader. Like you got to have some leadership skills. You are running a team. I don't operate my business like a side hustle. This is a big business. We're making big money. So I have to be a leader. I have a team on site. I have a team virtual. Nothing gets done unless I'm overseeing it. I have to be constantly pushing my staff to get things done. People, I'm just going to be honest with you, people don't want to work right now. Everybody's looking for a way to make money online or work remotely. I mean, so you got to be a creative leader in order to get people committed to your vision and working hard for you. So off rip, before we talk about anything else, if you can't exhibit those skills or are not committed to, investing the time to hone these skills, it's going to be very difficult for you to succeed as a venue owner. Next, Brandon. So let's get into these myths. First of all, we always hear this. It does not cost a lot to open a venue. Huh. I don't know about you. And I know there's a lot of venue owners on here, but that is not true, right? Next slide. What are some of the realities about how much it really costs to get into this industry? The startup costs are very high. Go back one. The startup costs are very high. I don't know about you. I opened two. I'm pretty sure I spent at least 50 on both, each, you know what I mean? Between the down payment, buying furniture, insurance, the build out, permits, licensing, supplies, the list goes on and on and on. So if you don't have either personal savings, personal credit, business credit, some kind of way to fund this, you're going to be, it's going to be very difficult for you to survive, especially in the beginning. some of us get lucky and we find a place where, you know, the landlord lets us get in for a very low amount. Or like, yeah, like you said, unless you find a turnkey spot. But other than that, it's going to be very expensive. Um, well, it's going to be a trade-off, right? Because if the place is turnkey, then the rent is going to be high. And just like when you get an apartment, you got to do first, last, and security, right? So first, last, and security on a $5,000 lease, that's 15,000 off rip just to get the key. And you haven't even purchased any of these other things that I'm talking about. So yes, it is nice. Hopefully you can find a turnkey place that you don't have to put a lot of money into up front as far as renovation. But most of us are not that lucky. So we need to have some funds set aside to be able to sustain, especially in these early stages. One thing I want to say is something will go wrong in this startup phase between, you know, the build out, you know, the city wanting you to install something that you didn't think about. Like for us, we had to put a sink with hot water in there. It cost us $7,000 to do that. With Suite 2, they made us put in a water fountain. The water fountain alone, just the water fountain was 2,000. That's not even the labor or anything like that. They made us put in different lights in the ceiling that stay on in case the other ones go off. I mean, it's just something is going to go wrong, and you need to have access to funds to cover those things. The last thing you want is to get into this building. You already put money down for first, last, and security, but now you can't have enough money to finish the renovation or to get through the permitting process. So, do you have enough cash to sustain yourself until the cash starts flowing in? If you didn't take my, you know, see, my students don't have this problem because they are doing pre-renovation uh booking sales, okay? But a lot of y'all are doing this without any type of guidance, and you don't start marketing your place until the renovation is finished. Now you have to start paying rent on a monthly basis, and you have no bookings, not even a lead on a booking. So, how are you going to sustain yourself until the cash from these bookings start flowing in? So, before you hop out here and sign anybody's lease, you need to make sure you have access to a lot of cash, whether it's personal funds, personal credit, business credit, whatever. Brandon, what do you think? Am I telling the truth on that or what?
Yeah, I spent way more on my first space than what you mentioned. I was in the six figures, and I mean, there's ways around it, right? We did get some tenant improvement, which is money that the landlord will give you to help with build out. But you need to be prepared. I think my biggest takeaway here is you need to be prepared to drop money and have access to it, as Oyinka just said, because you just never know what might happen or what you may want to need or what you may need in the future. And I like to think of it as, you know, try to begin with the end in mind, because there's ways that you can quote unquote bootstrap things and buy things as you open and as you grow. But there's just some things that you can't get around. And you definitely don't want to get in the scenario. And you told this story, Oyinka, it must have been in one of your courses, of someone that opened up a venue in a space that you were first interested in, but they didn't get the proper approvals, and then they ended up getting shut down. So they tried to skirt the process because it was a good, I don't know the exact details, but because it was a good deal, but long term it ended up hurting them. So like there's some things that you can go cheaper on, right? That is absolutely true. You can be savvy, but if you have your end in mind and where you want to be, you got to be very careful and selective with what those things are to make sure that one, your brand is intact and your venue is intact and it lasts, and that you have the money you need to continue to operate.
I agree. Somebody on Instagram is saying they spent at least 40 and look 10,000 on a new AC unit that she didn't plan for over here in the chat.
Yep.
So these are the type of things that you have to be aware of. Brandon, what's the next myth that we're gonna talk to y'all about?
All right, so I hate following you. I need to stop doing this. I don't know what I signed myself up for. She's hard to follow, y'all. What you think? Myth number 2 is a lot of people think, to Oyinka's point at the beginning, that finding a location is easy and that you can kind of walk through the steps on your own. I know many people that have tried that and have failed, and those that have been successful, they honestly just got lucky. You know, this is not a way, when you think about having a professional business versus having a side hustle, this myth is a side hustle mentality for sure. And if you want to have a professional business that lasts long term, you got to approach it in the way that requires you. Let me jump. I'm jumping ahead. This is the reality. You got to approach it in a way that prepares you for what you need. And first, I think it starts with mentorship and finding experts. And like, am I telling you you need to go pay for mentorship? No. I'm telling you, at a minimum, if you don't want to pay for something, you need to spend the time to get on YouTube, to get on Google, to go to the library, do whatever you need to do to research so that you're well informed on like what it takes to find a location, at a minimum, before you get started. And I think you can obviously do Google searches, and you can get on Crexy and all the websites to start looking, but you don't want to make any decisions or try to like narrow down your choices and venues based off of what you think is the right way to approach it. Which leads to the second point. Like, you have to look at multiple properties. I think everybody puts in kind of like the criteria for the space that they want. They want X number of square feet. They want it to be in this location. They want it to have a parking lot. They want to have this, that, and the other. They want to have windows, like all of those things. And they put that in. And then when they find the space that meets those criteria, that's the one they have to have. They fall in love with it, and they don't want to look beyond that. But frankly, like, you don't have a sense for what reality is in terms of cost for rent, in terms of like what else is available to you that you may be able to find cheaper if you look in like a couple blocks down the road. Like, there's so many nuances that you can learn by just looking at multiple places. And most people do look at multiple places, but when I say multiple, I don't mean like 3 to 5. I mean, like, you need to be looking at 20, 30, 40, 50 properties, depending on where you're at, big city versus small, to make sure that you're getting the best deal that you can find for the criteria that are important for you and your long-term vision. And then another reason you need to look at multiple properties is, like, there's people that are frankly going to tell you no. One, most of you are probably like newer entrepreneurs or haven't been in the venue space if you're still looking for a venue. And some landlords are just not comfortable with that. And so that's one reason. Another reason is, if you your finances, you're probably relying a lot on business credit. I mean, not business credit, personal credit and personal finances. And landlords, again, are not comfortable with that always. Or they want to see significant savings, which is a good thing for you. It actually benefits you if you do have that. But if you don't, you're going to get more no's than you will yeses, because landlords got to be comfortable. They know they're taking a risk on a small business. And if you don't have the finances, then you can expect from a lot of them, most of them, that they're not going to take that risk. And that can go into a bunch of other things, like, your business plan and all those other things. The next thing is negotiation. Like, a lot of people think, and this goes into, I should have brought this up at the beginning, like, when you're looking, you need to have a commercial realtor help you look, because they have knowledge that you don't have. And a lot of people do look on their own, and they think they know what they're looking for, and they think they understand the pricing, they think they understand the market. Even if I were going to look for a third space, I would still get a commercial realtor to help look with me. I don't think I would ever do it on my own. Because there's just things you won't understand, or that you may not know, because they're looking at deals all day, every day. They're looking at properties all day, every day. They know what's available and what's not, and if it's worth spending the time on a deal versus not. That doesn't mean you rely on them to do everything, because I have had scenarios where I know students that are relying on the realtor to find the perfect spot, or to find 10, 15 spots for them to look at. And that's not always the case. It really depends on the realtor that you find and that you use, which is another conversation. But you need to have at least one realtor commercial that's done it before, has leased commercial properties. Don't try to use a residential property friend that doesn't really understand commercial properties to help you find your first venue, because there's just too much nuance there that you're going to miss out on, because they don't know and you don't know. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight is just leasing takes time. There are situations where you can get things done quickly, you know, especially if it's like a mom and pop building. But if you're using, sorry, y'all, he's joining me. This is a part of entrepreneurship. If you don't, if you find the mom and pop shop, you could get it done quicker, but you still want to take the time and spend the time to go through the lease, buddy. Go through the leasing process to make sure things are done correctly on your end, and the landlord or the commercial property people are going to take the time to do it as well. So
Yeah.
This is probably bothering the heck out of you. I'm sorry.
You know,
we don't have kids in the classroom, but we do it. We do it a little different when I'm in the classroom.
Oh goodness. Okay. We gonna let that slide today. But I do want to say, when you are out here looking at these properties, don't just look at the property that you think people are gonna like. Like, you need to like talk to some successful venue owners and ask, what are some of the qualities that I should be looking for in this space? Like, I don't know about you. I don't feel like being like a wedding venue that can host 150, 200 people. To me, that's way too much work. I'm not interested. For me, the sweet spot is around 2,000 to 2,500 square feet, wide open, to where I can have 80, maybe 100 people. Yep. I might not be, the right person to be in this industry, because I don't like crowds. So having a space that can have 100, 125, 150 people, that just bothers me. So for me, the sweet spot has been 80, because with 80, you can get, well, first of all, the space is small enough to where the space is small enough for you to manage it. Maybe you can even flip the room and have two parties in a day. It's small enough to where the price is affordable. It's manageable. You're not creating a whole bunch of nuisance in your neighborhood, as far as, noise and traffic and things like that. So for me, I personally would, um, I personally like that 80 to 100 people max, 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. You need a place with a lot of parking. Parking is a major issue for a lot of venue owners, and it's the number one reason that a city will deny your occupancy certificate or certificate of use, whatever they call it in your particular area, because there's not enough parking, so they know the crowd is going to create a nuisance. You need to, I don't know about you guys, but I'm in the shopping plaza, and sometimes you have neighbors. Is there going to be a thick wall to where you don't disturb the neighbors with the music? And then you start having complaints to your landlord about the music is too loud. What kind of landlord is it? Is this professional management, like Brandon said, who are going to take the time and vet you and make sure you have the resources to maintain this lease? Yeah, that might sound annoying, but when something goes wrong, like your roof starts leaking or your AC is not working, if you have professional management, it's a higher likelihood that the issue is going to get taken care of versus the small mom and pop who might let you get into their place easily, but when something goes wrong, they're going to be missing. So think of it like this: if they're lax in the beginning, they're going to be lax when you have a problem.
Yeah.
If they're on it in the beginning, they're going to be on it when you have a problem. So those are some of the things you need to think about when you're searching for the right property. And that's why it takes some time to find that right property. I fell completely in love with the first property that I looked at. It really, you know, checked off every box for me, except the city would not approve it. So I'm sitting here thinking about, well, what else can I call it so that the city will approve it? But you know what? Do I really want that headache at the end of the day? And a venue, and like Brandon mentioned, another venue owner that I know personally moved into that shopping center. I asked him, hey, the city let you move in there? Oh no, I'm just gonna call it something else. Then after he renovated, bought tables and chairs and all this stuff, and he got shut down. So just stop trying to cut corners and do things the right way.
Yeah. One thing I
Makes
wanted to,
sense.
sorry. I wanted
Yeah.
to highlight going back to, like, I really love the point about getting in a space that is a size that's comfortable. And I know you said, oh, Yankee, it's comfortable for you and like not liking crowds and a whole lot of other reasons. But I think also that is a space where you can make enough revenue for it to make sense, but you also aren't so big that things become unwieldy as you are a new owner trying to learn and perfect your systems. Because dealing with a crowd of 50 or 60 or 70 is way different than dealing with a 150, 200 person crowd. And the stakes are
Mhm,
higher, right? If you can
mhm,
fit 200 people, your rent is likely way higher and there's a much
mhm,
bigger risk. So again, thinking about starting with the end in mind, I think it makes sense to start small as you perfect your processes, procedures, get your brand out there, get people to know you. And then if you want to scale and get something bigger, you could much more easily do that because you understand what it takes. You understand how to control your cost, like all of the things that come along with it. It's just much easier to do that. I would only recommend somebody go big if they have like some deep experience from before as like a event planner that worked for a big wedding venue or something like that, where you've seen it all before and you've managed those things, versus thinking you can just do it on your own, which maybe you can, but I wouldn't want to like find that out
exactly.
the hard way.
Not when you're paying 10,000 or 15,000 a month in rent. I
Yeah.
don't need those kind of problems. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide for me, Brandon. So, the number one myth, this should have been number one, that this business is passive and require very little of my time. That's a lie. How many people on here know that's a lie? Okay. Get to the reality of it. Yep, you see in the chat, that's a lie. Most of the successful venue owners out here are spending a lot of time every day involved in the day-to-day operations. Like if you like just think about it like this. The more effort you put into something, the more reward, right? So if you're putting very little effort, I'm pretty sure you're going to get very little reward out of this process. Like me, I am involved every single day, all day. I may not be at the venue every day. I may not be the one setting up parties anymore, but I am highly involved in what's going on at my place. I'm looking at the cameras, I'm checking Honeybook, I'm looking at inquiries coming in, I'm looking at contracts going out, I'm making sure everything is being planned properly for the weekend. Like, I'm a CEO of this business. What CEO do you know who is not heavily involved with the operations of their business? And especially in the beginning, when you first start this thing, you need to be doing every single thing because you need to understand how the whole process works. Like, how can you teach somebody how to properly answer your phones if you haven't done it? How can you teach somebody to send out contracts and proposals if you haven't done it? How can you tell somebody how you want your place cleaned if you haven't done it? In the beginning, my husband and I were at that venue for every party. I'm not like some people who say, I'll let them in remotely and then they can lock up by themselves at the end of the night and I'll just watch what happens on camera. Not me. I don't know about y'all, but between suite one and suite two, I'm paying $12,000 almost in rent. Okay. Y'all are not going to tear my place up. So it only takes one bad party to ruin your whole business. So you need to be on top of everything that's going on at that place. I'm not leaving my venue unattended with people who are sitting around drinking for 6 hours. I don't know about y'all, but that's not going to happen at suite one or suite two. So in the beginning, it was either me or my husband or both tag teaming. We're sitting there setting up, sitting there during the event. We're sitting there after cleaning up and shutting down, going home at 12, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. We did that for a few months until we got the system down, and then we hired people to take over that stuff. So now, well, I'm not closing at all. I don't know about y'all. I don't have to do that anymore, but he might close every so often. But now we have people do that because I know what it takes. So I can tell somebody how I want my place maintained. But if you've never done it, how can you make sure somebody else is doing it at a high level? Not only that, outsourcing every task is going to decrease your profit margin. There's only two lines. Those of y'all who are on here that been through my cohort, it's what? Revenue minus expenses. That's it. So if you want to make money, the revenue has to go up or the expenses need to go down. It's harder to increase the revenue than it is to decrease the expenses. So if your revenue is a fixed number, and you are paying everybody to do everything within your venue, then how much is going to be left over for you as profit? So there's some stuff that I'm going to do myself because I want to make money from this. I'm not trying to get everybody else rich. I'm doing this so I can make money. So yes, you can have a VA answering the phone. You can have people cleaning. You can have an on-site manager. You can have an on-site decorator. All those people you have to pay. So the more people you have to pay, the less money that's left over for you. So some stuff I'm still going to do because I want to make money. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. It does.
Okay.
I love this
But
point because
Brandon might have a different point of view than me, but go ahead, Brandon.
yeah, I'm gonna give my perspective, but I agree with everything you say because it is all true. And like I lived it. And when I came in the venue, my wife and I did the same thing that Oyinka and her husband did. We were there for just about everything. I am more lax in the sense that I didn't stay there the entire time, and I was quicker to do some of the outsourcing, but she's 100% correct. Like that affects your bottom line because that is not a free service that somebody's just going to come clean your venue. So I think it's a balance between, like, again, your long-term vision, how much time you need to spend to continue to grow your business, and how much time you want to spend to do whatever else it is you want to do. And what I did was I was in the venue at the beginning, like I said, then I hired a VA, then I had a contractor come help us, and we were doing good numbers, big numbers for us, more than what I expected initially. So I said, oh, we can continue to back off. It could be, this is when I was telling myself this lie. It is passive. I could do this and not really spend a whole lot of time doing it. I took my foot off the gas, because even if you're not there, like Oyinka said, you still need to do, what is your marketing strategy for the quarter or the month or the
Right.
week? Are you
And
looking at?
that's where I am right now.
Yep.
I'm more strategic planning versus operations, but I'm still involved heavily.
Yep. To that point, are you meeting with your team on a weekly basis? Do they know? Like, we have a meeting every week that we go over what happened the last weekend, what happened, what needs to happen the next weekend. Do we have all the materials we need? Do we have all the supplies? Do we have coverage for everything? If somebody's out of town, who's going to cover down on that? Does it need to be me? No one else is going to verify those things until you get to the point that you're hiring a manager to do the work. And to me, you need significant revenue to be at that point to have a full-time manager. And when I took my foot off the gas, we had some successful months, but you could see the growth slow down. And I was like, damn, like if I take off the gas, the engine slows down, right? We slow down, and that's what happened. My business became very stagnant after like the first 7, 8, 9 months, because I got comfortable, because I was happy with the numbers. And a lot of it was happening remotely, using cameras and letting people in remotely. But there are other aspects of the business that somebody has to do, and you shouldn't have hired a team. Like, you shouldn't have like a marketing specialist. You shouldn't have an operations manager at that point. So all of those things impacted me, and like even where we are today as far as growth. So, when we say you have to be consistent, you have to persevere, you have to stay in it, you have to stay on it in some way. If you're not doing something, even if you're just spending an hour, I think at a very minimum, you need to spend at least an hour every day on the
Yeah,
business, at a minimum.
absolutely.
Like, you got to be doing something.
That's right.
And if not, your business isn't going to be where you want it to be, especially
Correct.
early. So hopefully that helped.
For sure. Okay, what's
Do
the
we go to the
last
last
one
one?
that we're gonna, yeah, what's the last one we're gonna hit?
All right,
Then
we got,
once we hit this last one, we're gonna open it up for Q&A.
yeah, I'll try to be quick, but this one is like so important. A lot of people think you should only worry about your customer's experience. It's only really important when they reach out, they engage with you, and then they book with you. That's when like you need to like go all out and show them the love that they need to be shown. You could do that, but the reality is, if you only pay attention to your customer when they book, you're probably not going to get as many customers as you could. Your customer journey starts as soon as someone figures out who you are. Even before them, like, you need to find a funnel to get them to figure out who you are. And when they do, what they see and the brand that they get, whether it's a Google ad, whether it's a social media post, whether it's your website, whether it's them talking to somebody else about an event that they were at, whether they're at an event that is hosted at your event, that is when the customer journey starts, like the very beginning. And you have to be really thoughtful about how you take them from there, whether they reached out to you or they're just at your venue or they drove by, to get them further along in the funnel. And if you don't consistently do that, so if someone goes to your website and they put in their information and then they leave, or they never put in an inquiry, you should be following up with that person, because who knows why they left, or who knows when they may need you again in the future. Stuff happens, people have to move events. It might not fit for this event, but it will for the next one. You will be so surprised. It's so much easier to keep a customer that you've already had, or someone that's already familiar with you, than to go find another customer. It is more expensive to find new customers, which is really to my last point, than it is to keep the customers you already have. Because people are going to have birthdays every year. It's always going to be somebody's anniversary. A baby's always being born. People die. And so they want to celebrate that life. There's always life events that happen that will bring people back to you, as long as your customer journey is what it needs to be, from the very first time they hear about you through after their event is over. You've asked for a review, you got to keep them engaged. And there's lots of ways to do that. Like we use a newsletter, we use social media, we use email follow-ups and campaigns to help with that. But you can't allow that customer to decide when they're going to be in and out of your funnel. Once they're in, you got to find ways to keep them warm and keep them in there. And so those are some of the things I talked about. I
I
really hit on
totally
all three
agree with that.
points. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. When somebody comes to your place, make sure it's clean. When somebody has an event at your venue, their guests are now potential clients. So you don't only need to impress the host of the event, you need to impress the guests as well. So your place needs to be clean, the customer service needs to be friendly, because now they are going to have you in mind the next time they're thinking about having an event. I do the same thing as Brandon. We do email marketing, posting on social media. You see us on social media several times a week. Just because, like he said, just because this event wasn't right for them doesn't mean the next one won't be right. And then they have an event in 2 weeks. They said, they inquired in the past, we weren't a good fit, but they couldn't remember the name of the venue, but she wanted to have her birthday party there. And when she got the email marketing campaign, it reminded her, oh, that's the venue. And she booked and paid in cash in full. So you want to stay top of mind. Like you can never post too much. I tell my clients, like, oh, they're like, oh, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to post every day. Well, somebody else is posting every day and they're going to make the money because the customers don't see you, they see them. The thing about it is, unless you're paying these platforms, they're not showing your content to everybody. Your content is going to be limited. So even if you post every day, it doesn't mean that all of your followers are going to see it every day. If you post every day, then maybe your followers might see it once or twice a week. So get out of your head and stay in front of the customer. I don't like to bombard people, but there's nothing wrong with sending a monthly newsletter or a quarterly newsletter. You want to stay front of mind uh, with your customers. If people are inquiring, you're constantly collecting all these email addresses. What are you doing with them? Keep them in the pipeline so that they can become a client in the future.
Yeah. And
So,
the two more
go
points I
ahead.
think I have. On the client. So again, like we do a weekly newsletter and I put in the chat post more like whatever you're doing, I think you should go 1 degree further past your comfort zone to a Yinga's point. If
Mhm.
you think monthly is enough, go weekly because you always want your customers to make a decision. You want them to decide to continue to get it because you're adding value. So you need to figure out ways to add value and think broader
Mhm.
than I need you to book with me. I need to figure out what will be helpful to my customer to add value to them, to want them to stay subscribed to my newsletter, as an example, or my social media post. I think that's one thing that's key. And another tidbit or two things. So I'll say this one first. Look at all the spam mail that you get from big brands.
Right.
Look at how much they are sending you emails and follow up. Black Friday, how many emails did you get from brands? I promise you, most of them emailed you multiple times within like a 4 to 5 day window because they know the more they send to you, the more you're top of mind, the more conversions that they will get. You want somebody to either rock with you or decide not to. And most people, I think we have like almost 5,000 contacts at this point. Most people will stick around. They might not need us. They might ignore us for a year, but when they're ready for us, you want them to be, or when they're ready, you want us to be top of mind. And the only way you do that is to stay in front of them.
Right. And it doesn't have to be expensive. Somebody asked about what system I use for email marketing. I use MailChimp. They have a free version, they have a $13 a month version, and they have a $26 a month version. If I sent like the girl that sent this email and she booked the whole party in full. So was that worth the $26? I really do think so. right? So some of us may be like, oh, I cannot afford, you know, Google ads or social media ads or whatever, but you can afford email marketing. It's cheap. So just do something. I mean, you can afford to post every day or every other day. That's free. So do as much as you can with the resources that you have. Eventually, you will get to the point where you can afford Google ads or Instagram or Facebook ads or whatever. But in the meantime, you have to do what you can consistently. I know a lot of people who are successful, not because they're the best at something, is because they're consistent at whatever it is they do. So if you're consistently working on this business, then you are going to see success. A lot of people are in and out. Well, you can't be in and out with this business because I don't know about you, Brandon. My landlord wants his rent on the first every month.
Man,
I can't
I
be
got
in
a
and
reminder email today.
out. Right.
Man,
I
again.
can't be in and out. Like, so it's like either you're in this business or you're not in it. If you're not going to be fully committed, do all of us a favor and stay out, because now you're competing with me. Somebody who could have booked my venue is now booking your venue, and you don't have the kind of customer service that I'm going to have. Stay out, let me make the money, or either do it to the best of your ability. Make
Yeah.
sense?
Can I add one more? I guess this is
Yeah.
almost like a bonus myth. I hear
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people say, and I've seen a lot of people. So we've been in the game about 3 years, me and Oyinka, and we've seen people come and go. And if you get burnt out, you figure out it's not for you. That's one thing. Like, I get it. That's a part of life. But you're gonna, if you're gonna bounce to the next thing and say the same thing in 3 years, then it's not the vehicle, it's you, right? And so I think the myth for a lot of people is I'm not successful because of market conditions or my location, or like insert excuse here. But what they can't say is that I've committed to doing something every day for this business. I've printed out 5,000 flyers, which only cost $50, $100 max. And I went and I placed them on cars, or I went to, a lounge at night that I know will have cars packed. Like, if you haven't committed to doing those things consistently, and then you make the excuse that I'm not making money because of X, Y, Z, then
Mm-hmm.
this is not for you, because you can't guarantee that anything will be successful. But it's hard for me to believe, and this is why I'm invested in this thing for a decade, that if I work on this consistently for a decade, that I will not get to the point that I want to be at, and that we will not meet the revenue goals that we want to hit. It's just time and experience and getting better over time. And most people just aren't willing to do that. And that's why you see the Chick-fil-A's of the world, the Amazons of the world dominate, because they were consistent for years, decades, until they got there, not looking for the first excuse to get out.
100% agree.
Sorry, I know.
That's why it goes back to the first thing that I said, um, tenacity, perseverance, critical thinking. When things get tough, you gotta, like, our mentor, he instilled it in us from the beginning. What did he always say? It has to
Has to
work, or it
work or
has to
has
work.
to work.
I don't care what it is. This landlord, whatever, the roof is leaking, the city is bothering me. I'm going to do what I have to do to get it done. I'm not walking away because I'm committed. I see this as a way for me to make a lot of money for my family and my future. So it has to work. Okay. So if you don't have that mindset coming in, don't do it. Okay. You're just gonna end up in debt, frustrated, overwhelmed, stressed out. So go in it the right way, or, you know, back away. I'm just being honest. All right. So let's get into Q&A. Who has a question? Nobody? Dang, did we answer everything?
Nah, ain't no way. I can
Triple
think of one thing we
triple
didn't answer.
net versus Cam.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I don't know. To me, triple net and CAM are almost like the same thing because basically CAM stands for Common Area Maintenance. And the landlord is basically saying that you and the other business owners are going to share in the expenses that it takes to run this plaza. They are not taking on all the expenses themselves. So what they're going to do is estimate what the expenses are going to be for this year, and they're going to divide them up between all the tenants based on square footage. So they may charge you $5 a square foot, $10 a square foot, whatever it is, based on what they estimate the expenses are going to be. And I always tell people that the expenses of the plaza or your venue are just like you have at a house. You have lawn service, you have, what they probably have a mortgage, they have utilities, they have, groundskeepers, they have accountants, they have staff, they have whatever. They're not paying for any of that. You are going to pay for it. So they're going to basically add that on to whatever your rent is. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard. Yeah, real estate taxes, all of that. They're going to add it on to whatever your rent is. So when somebody quotes you a certain amount for rent, it's not just rent. Most cases they are going to charge you, or as we say, triple net or those CAM charges. And the thing you do have to be aware of is that for most landlords, the CAM charges are estimates. Then at the end of the year, they're going to do a reconciliation to say the actual expenses for this plaza for the year was X and we charged you Y. If there's a difference, they're going to assess you the difference. And I don't know about y'all, but last year I got a $2,400 assessment after the year was over because they underestimated my CAM and they want their money. So when you are reviewing your lease, you need to look in there and see if they're going to do an annual reconciliation of those CAM charges. And you got to make sure you have money put aside to cover that.
Yeah. And that's something like this is another point for having a commercial real estate agent because everything's negotiable. Like that's one thing we did negotiate, like capping the triple net at our first location. And I wouldn't have known or thought to do that without talking to someone who knew what they were doing. Most landlords won't do that because, they can't control what taxes do, especially if it's triple net, right?
Mm-hmm.
But some will, and ours did. So, yeah, and I dropped like the book definition in the chat, but I have seen CAM and triple net used interchangeably, but I think technically CAM normally falls within triple net if triple net is included because it also includes property taxes and insurance. That's like the book definition.
Okay, so I see Silas. Am I pronouncing that right?
Right. That's correct. How you guys doing?
Good. How are
Good.
you?
How are you? I'm all right. I will have my camera on when I'm driving right now.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm also part of Neo's program. I've had my space for a year this past month, November.
Congrats.
And, I wish it was that, but I'm trying to get to where I can get more revenue, and I know this might be a little further than what you guys went over tonight, but about trying to go into start doing decoration myself because
That's where the money is.
just getting the building and chairs and tables is like just getting by every month.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on mute because I'm getting an echo. But okay. Well, yeah, thank you. Decoration is where the money is. Nobody is really paying you just for tables and chairs and the space. So sorry. People are looking for a one-stop shop because these decorators, sorry if anybody on here is a decorator, but they are taxing people. So most people can't afford these decorator prices. So they're looking for a venue that's a one-stop shop. Well, how do you get into this decorating business without driving yourself crazy? Well, my method is we offer set options. So when it comes to centerpieces, tablecloth colors, table runners, backdrops, we have set options to choose from. When I initially started, we started with 4 options. And people were perfectly okay with those 4 options. As time went on and I started to see what other people are requesting, then I started investing in other centerpiece options. But for now, at the beginning, I just had 4. And I only buy things that I can use multiple times. So I do spend a lot of money, I would say,
Put this on for
somebody
me.
needs to be
Future,
on
hear
mute.
something. Okay.
I do spend a lot of money on my centerpieces, but that's because they last. So I can use them over and over and over. And when I tell you people just pick the same stuff over and over, they don't care. If they can have a venue plus decor for $10, why would they go and pay a decorator $1,500 just for decoration? Most people don't care. Most of your guests don't care about the decoration. They just walk in and like, oh, this place is nice. Where's the food? Who's the DJ? That's all they care about. So, and a lot of customers understand that, and a lot of customers are looking for value. So, if the key is to find a way to offer decor without having custom for everybody, that's the way you make the most money in that arena.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Silas, like the best book. And number one, I stole this from Oyinka. She's been pushing me for a long time because, like I said earlier, like I'm hands off, and so we just recently introduced more decorations that we are as the venue are doing versus event decorator that we've used for a long time to help meet those people kind of in the middle and get a little bit more profit than we were by just renting the venue. And the best way I've seen it broken down in a book form is $100 million offers. And I don't get anything out of this, but I really truly believe this. Alex Hormozy wrote a book called $100 million offers, and he breaks down thinking about value stacking and how you maximize, to Oyinka's point, like the materials that you have, that it may cost you a lot up front, or it may not cost you a lot at all, but it's something that you can offer continuously and grow your profit margin without sacrificing a lot of time or a lot of dollars. So if you haven't read that book or gotten that book or listened to the audio book, I definitely recommend that as an avenue. And then Silas, I don't know what your scenario is, but I also would want to know, like, what is your marketing plan and like how are you marketing these offers as well? Then we could talk more about that if you're interested. But yeah, I think
I
those
haven't
two things.
started yet. I was gonna start at the top of the year, but I was just gonna start out with like black, white, gold, silver.
Mm-hmm.
If people wanted like accent colors, I just have to buy that
Yeah.
or another color, but maybe like 1,200. As far as I'm saying, there's people around here in my market, they're like 15 for like 50 people set up. This like chair covers or the Shivari chairs. I don't have Shivari chairs. I just have regular chairs. So
Yeah.
I would have to do chair covers and charger plates, one backdrop.
That's what they want. That's all they want,
Yeah.
Yeah.
honestly.
One thing I would add to that, I know you said you would buy stuff if people ask for it too. Yinka's point, like, people may ask you if you have this and you have that. If it doesn't make sense and you think it's only going to be that one client that wants like a random color, I don't know what's a good color, like pink. Oh, Yinka, maybe that's a bad example, but something that isn't used often, like tell them no, you have black and white, and they will choose black or white.
And also, let me tell y'all, I have probably had over 300 events, and I only have offered black or white tablecloths, and I have colored tablecloths available for $20 each. How many people do you think have paid me the $20 each for the colored tablecloths out of these over 300 events? Take a guess.
5.
I say like less than 5. Might be
I say
0.
Not even.
zero. Absolutely zero. Not one person has paid me for colored tablecloth because they don't care. Even I had a couple of people who added it to their invoice, and before the party came, they were like, "Oh, take that off. I don't need it." So a lot of y'all are offering all this stuff that people don't even want or really need. And if you don't have it, they're just gonna, like me, I don't say no to anything. Like, oh, Yinka, do you have gold tablecloths? Yes, for $20 each. Oh, Yinka, do you have do you put the plates and silverware? Yes, for $5 each. Do you have? Yes. Whatever you have, whatever they ask, yes, I have it for X amount. If they're either gonna pay it or they're not gonna pay it. If they pay it, great. I made the money and now I have the item. If they don't pay it, it's less problem for me. You know what I'm saying? I saw a question in the chat about zoning. Zoning is so important. When you are on these websites looking for places to have for a venue, the first thing you need to do is go to the city's website or either call the city zoning department and ask them if that address is zoned to be an event space. Before you even call the landlord, there's no sense in calling a landlord if the city is going to deny the space. So you need to get familiar with the zoning rules of your city so you know where to concentrate your search. We waste a lot of time and money negotiating with landlords over a space that the city is going to deny anyway. So why waste your time? Go to the city first. They are familiar. You can ask them, well, what areas can I look in that you know is okay for it to be an event space? And they will tell you. Now concentrate your search in that area. Don't do it the other way around. You're wasting a lot of time, your time and the landlord's time. Why am I negotiating with a landlord on a space that the city is not even going to approve? So all the cities have a zoning website. You can go on there a lot of times and put in the address, and it'll tell you what type of businesses can be at that particular location. If the city's website is not that clear, then you need to just pick up the phone and call. I had another venue owner friend of mine. She called me and said, "Oh, Yinka, guess what? I'm signing my lease tomorrow." Oh, sis, that's great. Did you call the city and make sure it's okay for that location to be an event space? No. What do you think happens 6 months down the road after she signed that lease?
Shut
Unfortunately,
down.
exactly. Unfortunately, and I felt so bad. But then she came back and said, "Oh, you told me." I said, "Well, if you're gonna sign this lease, maybe can you please ask the landlord to put in there that if the city does not approve it, you can get out of the lease." But no, a lot of us are so eager to jump on the event space trend, and you're so happy to have found a landlord who is okay with it. You're just gonna sign without doing the due diligence. So that's why I said, don't waste your time going to any landlord unless you are certain that that location can be zoned as an event space. And not only that, yes, it can be zoned as an event space, but also ask that zoning department, what does the event space need in order to be approved? Yes, it can be an event space, but it needs 2 bathrooms, fire sprinklers, hot water, and whatever else. Now you found this place. Yes, it can be an event space, but it only has 1 bathroom and no fire sprinklers. Then guess what? You already signed a lease. So either you're going to break this lease or you're going to spend the 10, 20,000 making these improvements to get the place approved. So not only ask if it can be an event space, but ask what features does the property have to have in order for it to pass the inspection and get the certificate of use or certificate of occupancy. Does that make sense?
Bars.
Stop doing it backwards. Leslie?
Hey, everyone. So, I'm going through the process of permitting now, signed my lease in October, did call zoning, but then found out I needed to call the town because my property is in the town of Huntersville. So they have a separate zoning than the department, and I work for the county. So I called, did the meeting. What I found out is my county offers a prelim review. So you can call them up and have them to review the property. And then they'll tell you everything that you have to do in regards to adding a water fountain, adding everything. And then you can have the landlord in there if they want to be attendant. But that's stuff that I thought I was doing right, but learned additional. And my landlord is a mom and pop. So they themselves didn't know all of that because they've been just renting basically for willy-nilly. Anybody sign a lease and they've just been in the space. So now that I'm trying to do everything right, they're now learning because they have another property next door that they have to do the same thing with. But the zoning, so you have to do the zoning with the towns and then the city and then the county too.
I think it depends on where you are, but it's a great point. I think that's a further point why you should always call, even if you think it's clear on the website and you got it. One, I found, at least here in Houston and Harris, I had the same issue, Houston versus Harris County. One venue, I went through Harris County. The other venue, I had to go through the city. But my conversations with both entities were really good. They're helpful. They want to help you as a small business to get you to understand. They've walked me through several things step by step on what to do and how to do it. So I think it's worth, no matter where you are and what you think you understand, unless you've done it before, just calling to hear from them and ask those questions that might not be clear.
Okay, Charles.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? First and foremost, thank you for doing this call. Greatly do appreciate it. We've had our space since August of this year. And so my question is, I have two, if that's okay. What type of tablecloths do you suggest in your packages? Our major issue now is that we have polyester. It's constant cleaning, constantly having to go to the dry cleaner. So what tablecloths do you suggest in packages?
Well, I don't know about you, but the first event we had, I used polyester tablecloth and I had to iron those tablecloths, and I never used a polyester tablecloth again in my venue unless they pay extra, which I just told y'all nobody else has ever paid extra. So they all get in spandex tablecloths, black or white, because I'm not ironing another tablecloth. I don't know about anybody else on this call.
This sounds personal.
It's very personal because I was at an ironing board for I don't know how long, and I would never do that again. That was the first event, and it never happened again. So the key to keeping them clean, though, is you have to, those white ones especially, you have to wash them immediately after the event. You cannot let the tablecloth sit dirty. We bring ours home and we wash them in our washing machine. It's not that many tables. Like you have what, 8 to 10 tables. So come home, throw those tablecloths in your washing machine at home. The laundry soap is a business expense because I'm using the laundry soap to wash the venue linen. So that's how we handle it. Spandex tablecloths, and we wash them at home. So we don't spend any money on laundering tablecloths or stuff like that.
That's right. Same here.
Yeah.
That's right, Walia.
And just my second question is, with this newsletter, are you guys like segmenting it out to like people who buy versus people you're just following up with, or is it just everyone in your database that you're sending this newsletter out to?
I send it to every single person in my database.
Okay.
There's no reason not to. Like, because again, especially if you add value, like we have a blog on our website and we always put a portion of our blog article in the newsletter, something, and it's not always perfect, right? But something that someone will find value in. There's no reason. Again, you want your venue to be top of mind for them. And if you start to segment and split, one, I think it's extra admin burden. Like you have two different newsletters. There may be some situations where you're offering something special for like returning customers, but even then, I would want everybody still to see it. Like you get benefits from being at this venue and being a loyal customer.
Got you. Okay, makes sense. Appreciate you too.
And make sure that in the newsletter, it's not always come book the venue. We're having a sale. Make it entertaining, personable. Just talk about event planning tips or, wishing them a happy holiday or whatever. That way they're more likely to open it because they want to know what you're talking about. If every email you send them is just about book the venue, they don't need to open it anymore because they already know that you're trying to sell them something. So make it interesting, make it inviting, make it personable, and you'll get a lot more engagement that way.
Yeah, and I think this is a good way to approach everything that you do. And that's just putting goodwill out into the community. Like if you continue to give at some point, like what we're doing right now, like just think about what we're offering a free webinar where we paid tens of thousands of dollars to either learn through experience or learn through coaching and mentorship. We're just giving that to you all. You didn't pay anything. Like all you had to do is spend your time, which is valuable. So we appreciate y'all for being here, especially y'all that have been here the whole almost hour and a half we've been on. But like that pays us back. And so the more you give, I think for the long term, the more you can expect to grow and receive, because that's just the way humans are wired.
I have a question in the chat. Any tips on finding quality workers and what are you doing to maintain them? You want to go first or you want me to go first?
I can go first. We're actually reading another book called How to Grow Your Small Business. And, I was in the military and have experience in leadership. I think if you want quality workers, one, you need to be a quality leader. Like you need to embody the characteristics that you expect to see in them. And then you need to make sure that those are very clear. And in How to Grow Your Small Business by Donald Miller, we're reading it right now in a book club that we that I have with some folks. Some of you all may know of it. He talks about having a mission statement, and not only having it, but having a deadline for it and financial objectives, and then actually reviewing it with your team is step one. And then with that mission statement, having what he calls key characteristics. So those are like traits that you would want to embody, and then therefore you want your team to embody, to make sure that your mission statement matches your key characteristics, match with your mission statement. And then critical actions. So not only their personality traits, but what are they doing actively on a regular basis to make sure that what you have and your vision and your mission are coming to fruition. I think starting there is key. We can dive deeper into like tactics, but if you take those three things and then you leverage that to build out questions to ask people that you're interviewing, that should get you the person that you want, or at least weed out the people that don't embody those things, and keep people there for the long term. Hopefully that.
With me, oh yeah, that was very useful because with me, I started out with all family and friends, because one thing about family and friends, for the most part, they have your back. So they're not going to let people come in there and tear up your stuff because they care about you. And you may not be paying them a whole lot, especially in the beginning, but they're going to make sure things are done because they care about you. So all my staff is either family or friends, or they were referred by a family member or a friend. And I have found that to be the key for me, because when I need something, they are there for me because they love me. Eventually, if we get big enough, when we get big enough, we almost at that place where I just may have to do an ad, but for now, I'm trying not to do that because I need people at that venue that have my back. Like, I'm gonna be on a cruise for this weekend, and we have 5 events. Do you think I would be able to go on a cruise with 5 events going on if I didn't have staff that had my back? That's the only way I have been able to sustain this thing, because friends and family have my back. And like Brandon said, if you are good to people, they're going to be good to you. So the way I treat them is the way that they treat me. I go over and beyond. I pay a lot higher than I think some people do pay. Like my cleaners, that I pay $20 an hour, you know, $18 an hour for people that just sit there during the event. I pay because, when pay comes loyalty, in my opinion. So friends and family and a decent pay, and I think you'll have the staff that you want. Scoobs, I see your camera on. You want to come on camera and you want to say something?
Yeah, what a question about, I guess, insurances,
Okay.
like different types of insurance. I know the landlord usually has insurance. Do they make you get additional insurance, or is there like a liability, like mental liability insurance?
Yep. So most landlords, if they are the quality type of landlords, they're going to require you to have your own insurance. My landlord required me to have general liability, liquor liability, property insurance, and plate glass insurance, because we have floor to ceiling windows. So for me, my insurance is $600 a month per venue. So some of y'all are always in the group chat talking about your insurance is $30 a month, $50 a month. I can guarantee that you don't have the proper insurance that's going to cover you if something happened. A lot of those cheap insurances are just like director and owner's policies. Like if somebody is trying to sue you because of contract violations or something like that. But you need general liability, which is going to cover if something, catastrophic happens. You need liquor liability in case somebody is drinking alcohol on premises and they leave and they get hurt. You need property insurance to protect all these tables, chairs, and other equipment that you have in there. I had another venue owner who said a customer bust the glass of their venue and tried to leave. What's going to cover that? Well, that's why our landlord requires us to have plate glass insurance. So if you are paying less than $100 a month for insurance, you need to look at the policy and see exactly what type of insurance you have and what kind of limits you have. Because like I always say, it only takes one bad event to ruin this whole thing. Okay. You paying a lot of money into this venue, and it takes one bad event to ruin the whole thing. So you got to make sure you are covered. And we're in South Florida, Scoops is down here with me. People just like to tear up stuff. So we
They tear
can't
up
even
stuff in Texas too.
So we can't even get insurance. Most carriers don't even want to cover venues in South Florida. We have shootings and all this other stuff. So that is one expense that you're going to have to be prepared for if you want to make sure you are properly protected.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add, because like I agree with everything she said, is consider having. If you have vendors in your space, they should have insurance too. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing you can consider, depending on the type of event and your comfort level. If you're not comfortable, you probably shouldn't have the event. But if you do, you could make a client get their own event insurance to cover things that may happen as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see a question in the chat. Where did I find my VA and what do I ask them to do? So I found my VA on Upwork. So you can put an ad on that website and you could list everything that you're looking for. So my VA does, I mean, obviously she answers the phones, she sends out contracts, she posts on social media, she will maintain my website if I tell her to, change this, change that. She drafts what we call the setup sheets, which is just like a list of everything that's required for the weekend. She goes through and lists like how many tables, how many chairs, what color linen, and all that stuff. So my VA is heavily involved. She does a lot for me. And the one thing I liked about Upwork is you could put your criteria, you can be very specific. I was looking for somebody who, speaks good English. They have experience with venues. I don't know, I put all type of stuff, but even I put in there that you have to send a voice recording of yourself saying, "Thank you for calling Suite One. This is such and such. How can I help you?" Because I need to make sure that my potential clients are not going to be turned off by how you answer the phone. So that's the one thing I like about that site. And I see, Brandon, you put onlinejobs.ph.
Yeah, I have 2 VAs. The first one I found through our mentor, but I'm pretty sure he found him through onlinejobs.ph. He's still with me today, so he's been around for almost 2.5 years now. He does everything that Oyinka said. Anything and everything that can be done online, like I'm trying to get them to do. Because if you find the right one who is loyal, understands the mission, the vision, and you treat them well, like, I mean, my 2 VAs, I can't remember if yours are, but mine are both from the Philippines. So giving them a $50 to $100 bonus for something good that happens, like we meet a revenue goal, or like it's the holidays and they've been performing well, or giving them time off. Like all of those things build the loyalty that Oyinka was talking about and keep them pushing your business, maybe not as hard as you, but keep pushing it forward. They push on me more than I do on them, because they're in the business more, because I'm working full time to make sure that things are getting done and that I'm approving things that they ask for. So yeah.
Okay, I see another question. How long should we lease for? I say 3 to 5 years is a sweet spot, because I need it to be long enough for me to learn the business and recoup my startup costs, but I don't want it to be too long to where I'm like locked in if I'm not super happy. So for me, 3 to 5 years is that sweet spot. Obviously, the landlords will tend to be more flexible on the rent if you have a longer lease term, but I don't want to be in there locked in for so long just in case something happens. So like the first lease with Suite One was 3 years, and then when we found Suite Two, it was before the 3 years were up, but they just renewed both at 4 years. So we kind of like started over on a new lease when we signed for Suite Two, which was like 2 years in, and now it's a 4-year lease.
I got nothing to add.
Okay. And that piggybacks on another question that somebody else put in the chat of they want to buy versus lease. What do you have to say about that?
I will first start by saying I haven't bought a commercial property. So like, this is just me speaking from like what I've heard and what I've thought about myself. I think if you want to buy a property, like when we were talking about expenses and cash reserves at the beginning, like you want to have some serious cash reserves. One, because you'll need likely a down payment on the property. Two, you're responsible for everything, to include all the property taxes and things that go wrong potentially, especially if you are the one that's operating in the space. You can't pass that along to anyone else because it's you. And then I would find an expert that's done it before, because like I don't think I can adequately think through all the things that you may need to consider. make sure you have the right commercial realtor, attorney, etc., to make sure that you are preparing in the appropriate way to do it right.
I agree. And like today, I had a meeting with a business banker. And, if you have a good relationship with a business banker, they can tell you what it takes to be approved for something like that. So even if you don't have a space yet, just make sure you have a business bank account with a bank that's local to you, to where you can go into the branch and develop a relationship with this business banker and tell them what your goals are for your business, so that if your goal is to buy a commercial property, they can kind of guide you from the beginning as to what you might need, so you can start getting ready. So like Brandon, I never bought a commercial property, so I can't tell you the ins and outs, but I would say rely heavily on the experts, people who have done it before, so that you don't make any mistakes. That's the reason why we are doing this type of call. That's the reason why we invested in mentorship. It's because you can avoid a lot of mistakes if you learn from somebody who's already doing that thing at a high level. Like, there's nothing new under the sun, and you don't get brownie points by finding a new way of doing something. If somebody else is already doing it at a high level, just say, "Hey, what are you doing? Can you help me?" You know what I'm saying? People help me. When I got involved in this event space thing, I went to all the most successful people that were in our cohort, and I'm like, "Hey, can you give me some advice?" Most people don't have a problem sharing. Like, we are here sharing. It doesn't take anything away from me by me sharing with you. When the venue down the street is booked, she's gonna call me or send her client, send that potential client to me. When I'm booked, I'm gonna send it to her. So you make relationships with other venue owners, we all are gonna succeed. So I'm not stingy with the information. So I just say, go and talk to somebody who's already doing the thing that you want to do at a high level, and see if you can learn from them. Stop being so proud to ask for help. So you're going to make a mistake that could potentially cost you thousands of dollars because you're, too proud to ask for help. It doesn't make sense. I don't know about you. I'll pay for the cheat code. It saves me time and money. Brandon?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. I get on a little soapbox sometimes.
Oh no, you good. Let it roll. I agree with everything she said. I'm glad y'all tapped in. I hope that you took some gems from it. Somebody asked if there's a replay. I think yes, Oyinka is going to send out the replay, so you'll have access to that. But what I want to ask you, Oyinka, is if there are people here that want more, have more questions, or like want to work with you further, is there a way for them to do that?
Absolutely. So, Brandon, if you want to share again, I think the last slide, I put my contact information on there. I do consultations all the time with venue owners. I just wrapped up a cohort of 10 venue owners who we worked together for a month. I made sure their booking system was all set, their marketing was good to go, their budgets for their venues were in place. So anything you need help with as far as your venue, making sure that you are, up and running the way you're supposed to be, you can reach out to me. I do hourly consultations. I have a lot of clients who do one-on-one mentorship with me. I think the reason that a lot of people like to work with me is because I am a professor. So I do, have a curriculum. It's very structured. When you work with me, it's not just talk. Like, I hold you accountable. You have homework every week. We make sure you get stuff done, and I get you out of your comfort zone. So I don't have another cohort starting probably until January, but you can always reach out to me for one-on-one help. That's my website. Well, right now the website is going to this webinar, but tomorrow I'll change it back. But if you use that QR code, it'll take you to my website. You can see all the services that I offer. Like I said, I am a CPA, a financial planner, So I do a lot of consulting, accounting, QuickBooks, HoneyBook. I'm actually going to a conference next week that HoneyBook invited me to because, they recognize that, a lot of people have been copying my HoneyBook account to make theirs. So on what I'm doing seems to be working. So, oh, thank you. So yeah, if you need to reach out to me, that is how you can. What about you?
Me?
Yeah. How do they get in touch with you?
You hit me up on Instagram is the easiest thing. It's just at BW37. I have done I have helped folks in the past. I'm happy to answer quick questions with folks. I mean, a lot of y'all that I know that are on the call, like we've had conversations about like your plans in the venue space and the work that can be done. I would say at a minimum, like follow us and follow people that have been in the game for a while and try to educate yourself through like what is being shared. And if you don't have the time to learn on your own, find someone that you can resonate with that will help. I can attest to Oyinka. Obviously, I wouldn't be on this call if I didn't like value Oyinka and believe that she's legit in what she does. But I can also say, like literally last night and the night before, as we were prepping for this, I watched one of her, several of her cohort videos, not all the way through, but like you can tell from this webinar, and then I could tell you from the actual cohort that she walks through. Like I took notes on some of her. I didn't even tell you that. I took a couple notes that I'm gonna steal. To continue to take myself to the next level. So if it's not her, tap in with somebody. Y'all have to stay committed and continue to do the work. Otherwise, you'll get average results at the end of the day. Like, and if I don't think anybody came in here just to like break even, right? If you're going to spend in all the time, energy, and effort, it's worth going that extra 10% if it's going to get you to the next level. And that could mean a lot to a lot of different people. But like there are ways to make significant profit in the venue business if you're willing to put in the effort. So I'm kind of rambling now. I hope that
No,
was
but that's all right. Well, thank you guys so much. We're gonna wrap it up and reach out if you need anything. Thanks for coming. Have a good night.
bye, y'all.
Thank you.